right, good afternoon folks. This is Faris with TwT, and today we're going to be doing another chart prep video where we talk about a couple of tickers that are setting up nicely going into the next week. Remember that these videos are supposed to help you make money. Maybe you'll learn a couple of things along the way, but we do have other videos that are solely focused on the educational aspect of trading on the channel. So if you're looking to learn something, you'll pick up a thing or two in these videos, but you might want to check out the channel, subscribe, and look at some of the recent educational ones, okay? On top of that, before we get into the list, and we got a good list today, I will say that if you are not one of the members in the chat room, it's not a big deal, but we do offer a free week where you can join us with the live audio, screen share, alerts, all that good stuff throughout the week, okay? That's tradewithtex.com. It's in the description below, okay? But let's get into it, because basically today we're gonna go over the S&P to start it off. We're gonna look at the futures chart just to get some pretty precise and accurate key levels. Then we'll go into two momentum plays. All right, Momo, not mom. And we'll talk about one swing trade that's setting up pretty nicely into next week. And our last swing trade from last Monday ended up netting 200% for options traders within 2 days. So pretty excited for this one as well, okay? Now for the S&P, this is kind of a tricky week because we have the Federal Reserve announcement coming up. I think that this is increasingly going to become a bigger deal because we're going to get rate hikes faster than people expect. We can kind of tell that the Fed is a little bit full of it. So we want to take everything with a grain of salt. But the Federal Reserve announcement is on Wednesday, right? Remember that historically we do drop after those, right? We run up into them and then drop after. So my expectation is that we should be able to take out a couple of overhead targets for the S&P before then, right? Historically, Mondays are the worst days of the week, but you know, again, setting up into this week, the S&P looks pretty healthy. We have a very obvious bullish trend here, right? Easy way of looking at that is just the 8 EMA is above the 20 SMA, right? Basic trend analysis, the lower length moving average is above the higher length moving average. So clearly we're in a bullish trend. Volume is still pretty low. So the way that you should trade this is completely different from what you would normally do. And I'm going to walk you guys through this because I know it might make the video a little bit longer, but this is super helpful for anybody who's trading actively intraday. Basically at this point, the way that you want to play the S&P is you want to have a core holding for this to push up to the next targets, and we'll go over those targets in a second. But on pullbacks, you want to look at the 200 hourly SMA. So this requires different time frames, right? The hourly time frame, and then the 8 daily EMA to act as support. So the 8 daily EMA you can see is around 42.20, right? The 200 hourly SMA, let me switch it to the hourly chart, is around 42.17, 42.16. So the bulk of the support is actually moving up. Beforehand, the support was at 42.11. Still is a key level, right, down here. But see how these moving averages are starting to slope up, right, and catch up to the price? That means pullbacks are going to bounce more frequently, but also faster than you would expect, right? We're not going to get the full pullback like we got this week, where 200 hourly SMA, 200 hourly, 200 hourly, right? Bounced 1, 2, 3 times, okay? We might not get that every time, but those two moving averages are going to be your saviors, right? That's where you would be looking to take the bounce intraday, okay? Now, ultimately, if we look at these key levels, we're breaking above 42.32, which was a historical resistance level, pretty much held us down all this week. We barely closed above it. If we can hold above that, key levels are 42.32, 42.49, just this week's high, right? And then the next target overhead, we have 42.59, and then 42.65 and 42.70. And the reason why I'm not writing out 42.65 here is solely because the way that I'm going to trade it, I'm going to look for a bigger move instead of just penny pinching for 6 points at a time. So basically, we're expecting a move up. This is target 1, that's target 3, but I think realistically this could hit this week if we are able to hold above 42.32. Okay. With regards to support, again, watch the moving averages that we talked about. And then the next support below that is at 42.11. All right. If we see that crack at all this week, we should drop down just below 4,200. But that's just me getting ahead of myself. I'm still expecting the move up. Okay. So again, just to kind of draw this out for you with a visual, we have support, support, old resistance, now support, resistance, resistance. Okay. And if you're wondering how we got these price targets, I'll link the video to show up and pop up as a suggested video throughout this one right here. Basically, we use Fibonacci levels and we use those retracements as extensions. I know it's advanced, to give us our targets for the next week, but I made a really simple video to walk you guys through that. So if you missed it, I posted it this past week. It's linked in the video. Okay. But either way, those are the targets. We're expecting to move up. Everything's still looking solid for the S&P right now, just a little bit slower. All right. Wanted to mention super briefly that gold is possibly reversing. This is just a really short and sweet mention. And actually, I'll pull it up for the ETF chart so it's a little bit easier to see. See how we had the consecutive red candlesticks here on the weekly time frame, right? Simple. Larger time frame equals larger move. Gold is signaling a larger pullback. But the only kind of wrench in this plan is that we have the Fed on Wednesday. So ultimately, that's going to decide the movement. Okay. Just wanted to let you know in advance, gold not looking too good going into this week. Okay. Now, as for the momentum movers, because this is what everybody wants to talk about, the sexy, fun stocks, I'm not trying to nail moves like the AMC run-up. Just to be clear, these are the most fun moves. They occur all the time. And yes, we trade them while they're happening, but the purpose of planning is to look to hit singles, right? Get those 10, 20% winners, lock in those profits, and over time, compound gains. We have a much larger portfolio, right? So for me, two of the stocks that I think are setting up pretty nicely for higher momentum moves this week, RVP and TIGR. And you can see I got the weekly charts just to show you what this looks like first. So this is the weekly time frame. But basically for RVP, see how we had a lot of sell pressure 2 weeks ago, right? They announced 2 massive contract extensions. Now, this is a company that makes syringes. When COVID hit, they made a lot of money. This is also a stock that I recommended for the Bowser Report, the newsletter that I'm the editor of. And it ran up from the $2 recommendation all the way to the 20s. Now it's kind of a bag holder stock, right? All the people that bought in the 20s are just trying to get out. However, this is the first week, well, 2 weeks, since that top that we've seen a nice candle combination here, meaning that we had sellers, very obvious sellers, and then we have basically what's the equivalent of a bullish engulfing candle, right? It's not a textbook bullish engulfing candle, but what this is telling us is that buyers are taking back control because we closed higher and all of those sellers from here are trapped, right? And as you guys know, I've said this in a lot of my videos before, but when we have trapped buyers or trapped sellers, we get the most aggressive moves, right? Because they start panic buying or panic selling. So it's kind of like the AMC GME run up, right? That same concept, but on a smaller scale. So for RVP, the simplicity behind this, we can switch it to the daily chart, but if you just draw this week's high, right? This past week, not this past week, but the one before that, that's at 1210, right? Then as long as we stay above 1210, we're clear for liftoff. And the next level is not until 1338, which makes this a very appealing play. So RVP, it has news, right? It has multiple positive catalysts here. They even just announced another big share buyback. And basically above 1210, we have room all the way up to 1338, which I think is a pretty damn appealing chart if you ask me. Okay, so this would be the breakout. This would be the push that we're looking for. All right. And yeah, it's a bag holder stock, but you know, it's setting up and we got to be unbiased here and say, all right, first time it's set up since the high, let's take this pretty seriously. All right. The other ticker is TIGR, which I also wanted to start out on the weekly time frame for, because this stock is at a pretty crazy run up. Basically, TIGR reported really strong earnings like 3 weeks ago. It was expected. I expected it. I know a lot of people in the chat room did too. This is a company that's growing rapidly. So I'm kind of surprised to see it moving up so much because, again, when news like that is expected, you don't get these bullish moves. It's usually priced in, right? But TIGR is still going. It's on week 3 going on week 4. And it's basing above the resistance at 28.38. You can see it from that prior week's high, right? So basically for TIGR, it's a similar scenario to RVP, not as much upside, right? But just as good looking of a chart where we have ran up, we're flagging, this is a bull flag, clean setup, right? As long as we get above 28.38, we go to the next fib of 29.89, all right? And realistically, I think we could push a lot more than that, like into the high 31s, but we want to take this one level at a time, right? So 29.89 would be the next level, and then we'd push into the high 31s if that holds, okay? But TIGR, I guarantee a lot of people are seeing this setup, so it's going to be a faster mover. RVP, I don't think that has a lot of attention. I don't think a lot of people are watching it, which plays to our advantage, right? So going into next week, my favorite setup is RVP. TIGR is in a solid number 2 spot. And I'll show you a slower mover that also looks pretty good here. This is the last ticker that I wanted to mention. Lululemon, right? Those tight yoga pants make money, and this stock does too, right? So Lulu, this is one of the stocks that is rebounding off of earnings. And again, got this idea from just scanning and looking at the weekly time frame. That's where a lot of my ideas come from, just looking at larger time frames for larger moves. So Lulu, if you look, another consecutive green candle here on the weekly. In addition to that, we put in a higher swing low right before. So the anticipation here is that we're going to push through for a higher swing high. If you don't know how that works, it's just trend basics, right? Higher swing low, higher swing high, that's what we're looking for, right? So basically for Lulu, just in terms of trend analysis, it is shifting the trend upward. In addition to that, and the reason why I like it, is because it's breaking above this key fib. See this blue line here? I'll switch it back to the daily chart. It's breaking above this key fib, which was, in my opinion, the bigger level here. I don't think that the 200 daily SMA is a huge level. I think in this case scenario, the fib is a lot more important that we hold that. Because as you can see in the past, see how it went fib to fib, right? Clean move. This stock is a very technically driven stock, right? So just from that aspect alone, we've reclaimed 335.93. I'm just going to put it as 336. Options traders, we should be able to see 347 and possibly even 355. Maybe not this week. This would be, you know, a week or 2 weeks out, but 347 is going to be the target for this week. Okay, that's just this previous high. All right, and then we'll reevaluate, see if we can get up to 355. So it's not a massive percentage move. That's why I'm saying options traders, this might be your cup of tea. But Lulu basically just looking for the pushback up to 347 and possibly through that because of the healthy weekly chart. Okay. Now, quick honorable mentions time. I always do this at the end of every video, or at least I try to. I do like these growth stocks, NET and ET. Very aggressive weekly chart forming here. I like NET if it can hold above 88.77. All right, that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not even going to give you guys a target because if you're a real Trade with Techs subscriber, or if you just have followed my videos, you know what my target is when a stock breaks above 90. That's all I'm going to say. All right, if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Okay. Last ticker is TTD. They have a stock split coming up this week. This was our big winning trade Monday, Tuesday. I'm watching it for a reclaim of 600, basically. 600 and 616 are the key levels for this one. So this one hasn't confirmed. Net has, but keep an eye on this one as well. Okay? But either way, guys, that's my outlook for the S&P. That's what I'm looking at for momentum trades, and even threw in LULU there as a possible option swing for those of you that are interested. Okay? But hopefully you enjoyed the video and you're having a relaxing Sunday. If you liked it, subscribe to the channel, check out some of the educational ones that we got, and you still got time to sign up for the free week trial if you haven't yet for Trade with Tex. All right, again, we got live webinars, screen share, audio, all that good stuff. And it's not just me. There are a lot of other good traders in there. Okay? But enjoy the weekend and good luck this week. All right, take it easy, folks.